Hello and welcome to another video from the team here at BlenderTech.com. That's BlenderTech.com. Don't forget to remember, create your way. Today we're going to be creating a 2005 Ford Mustang GT from scratch. It's going to be a multi-part tutorial. It's going to be in-depth. It's going to be complete. And there's going to be many parts because we are going to model absolutely every single part of the car that we can. Don't forget to subscribe for more Blender, Unity 3D, and programming videos. The team adds between 3 to 10 a day. So I found this blueprint for a 2005 Ford Mustang GT on the internet. If anyone knows where it's from, please let me know so I can give credit. And I'm going to leave links to my edited files for the blueprints underneath the video. So what I've done is I've cut it out pixel perfect into the different views. As you can see, it just touches the very edges of the image on all sides, and I've done that for all the views. Like I said, it's cut out pixel perfect, so that way it'll be easy to work with. And what's great about this original blueprint, however, is it includes the 4 views, but it also has the front and back scaled down to the exact same size as the top view, so you wouldn't have to do any, or you'd have to do less resizing and scaling in Blender, but I decided against it. I decided to just use the 4 views on their own and cut them out myself. So I will provide links to those. The reason I decided to use this blueprint is because this was actually the first car I ever bought. It was a 2005 Ford Mustang. So I'm very familiar with the car, and so I know the lines. However, with that said, I have downloaded a ton of reference images from every single angle I could think of the interior, of special editions, etc., of the engine, anything you could think of. And the only issue with that is that Mustangs have been around for 9 years without any major body changes, and because they're so popular as a muscle car, there's a ton of aftermarket add-ons. So as you can see, each Mustang has its own little customization pieces to it that owners have added on. But either way, the general body lines are the same. So we're going to be using a lot of these reference images when we get stuck at a point. So anyways, let's get into Blender. So I've already got the blueprints added, as you can see. And the screencast keys, if they get in my way, I might turn them off because they, to be honest, they kind of get in my way. Maybe I could put it up there this time. We'll see. We'll see though. Like I said, if it gets in my way, I'm gonna get rid of it. I don't think people actually use them that well. I think if people are following tutorials, they know what buttons to press, and the tutor will be describing what they're doing. But anyways, as you can see, I've got the front lined up, and I've lined it up right down the middle because we're going to use a mirror modifier since cars are symmetrical. I've got the right view, which ends up being the side view, lined up, and I've got the wheels right on the y-axis grid line, and I've got the front lined up right on the z-axis. I've got the top view lined up, and again, I've got it split right down the middle so that we can mirror it. And I've got the back view set up as well, and it's again split right down the z-axis so that we can mirror it. And so I've gone in and I've selected a point, so I've selected basically the top of the mirror, and if we choose it in top and front mode, you can see that they line up pretty much perfectly, and in side view they also line up perfectly. Now this was fine for top and side view, they lined up perfect from the start, but the side view I had to do a ton of scaling. So I'm going to give you the coordinates now so that you don't have to go through that. And since I've cut out the images pixel perfect, as you can see here, that way it makes it a little bit easier. So you just line it up right with the edge of the sharp pixels. And it's the same with the wheels. It's only off by a hair. So here's the coordinates for those of you that are going to follow along at home. Open up my end menu. What you would do is you'd enable background images and you'd add all 4 of them in. So for the front, let's move to the front just to see it. The size is 5, the X is 0, and the Y is 5. Change your axis to the front so that you see it only in the front. And one thing to note is I use an opacity of 0.250 because at stock it's 0.5. And as you can see, that's quite bright, and so the lines here are very black, and it's very hard to see your lines and vertices on here. So I like to change my opacity down to half of that, so to 0.25. That way you can see your lines and vertices and such over top of your images. One other thing to quickly note, under File, External Data, make sure you have Automatically Pack into .blend checked off, and I suggest the next time you start up a new Blender project, check that off and then save it as your startup file. That way, anytime you go to save as and to save your .blend project, what it'll do is it'll take any images you've opened up, basically any textures, any reference images, any background images, anything that you've used as an external source in your project, and it'll pack it into the .blend file, kind of like zipping it. So that way, if you ever lose these images, if they're ever deleted or if they're ever moved or corrupted for some reason, at least they'll be in the .blend file and you won't lose them. I learned this the hard way. I was following along a tutorial of the 1957 Ford Thunderbird, which is a pretty good tutorial, by the way. But anyways, one day I went to open it, and all of a sudden my reference images were gone. These images here were completely gone, so I had to go and re-add them in and re-line them up. And I think I had 7 or 8 blueprint and reference images lined up perfectly at that point, so it was a complete pain in the arse, and it sucked completely, and I learned the hard way. So I've learned now that just simply have it pack all files into the .blend. The only disadvantage to this is it will increase the size of your .blend file slightly, but as long as you're not importing like 200 meg, 12K resolution HDR images, you'll be alright, and they won't turn into a huge file. And either way, it shouldn't matter too much regardless. So, like I said, for the front, size 5, X0, Y0. Pretty easy because I've cut it out so perfectly, we don't need to make any adjustments to that. For the back, almost the same deal. Size 5, X0, and the Y is 4.1970. I changed that just a little bit because I didn't cut it out quite perfectly on the back. I left a little bit of space under the wheels, so that way it's just lined up a little better. Let's just move to the back so you can see what I'm talking about. So there's the back view with these coordinates. I've used the same opacity, and again, make sure you set your axis to back so that that's all you see. For the top view, which is right here, the size is 5, X is 0.014, so I was pretty darn close to cutting it out perfect. I think it was actually the image that was off a little bit, or the center is just slightly off from where I've put it. But 0.014, you can probably get away with just 0, but I suggest 0.014, and the Y is simply just 5. So pretty simple. Again, change your axis to top, choose the opacity that you want, done deal. And lastly, for the side, this is where I had to play around for about 20-25 minutes just to make sure. I'm just going to save quickly, Control S, remember that, hotkey, Control S to save, and continually save your project so that you're never losing any progress. I know that Blender auto saves, but it's always best to continually save so that you don't lose any work, especially when things get complicated and you're doing huge tutorials. You don't want to lose any work that you've done. Anyway, so for the side view, this is where I had to do a ton of playing around and changing things here and there, just a little bit at a time, a little bit back, a little bit up, a little bit forward, some fro, and so on and so forth. So anyway, what I ended up with is a size of 11.985, x of 11.985 as well, because I cut it out so perfectly, and a y of 11.819. So by doing that, like I said, if we pick a place such as this, let's choose the very corner of where the windshield meets up with the hood, or not the hood, with the roof here. So the windshield lines up with the corner of the roof right about there. Then if we move in the top view, we can see that if you move it just horizontally, it basically lines right up. So we'll just click right there. So from top view, if we go back into side view, as you can see, it's basically in the exact same spot. So it's within a small margin of error. And if you go to the front view, as you can see, it's basically right on the same spot. So it's hardly off. You know, from front to top, it's perfect because those are scaled perfectly. And if you go to side, it's pretty darn close. I don't have the scale completely perfect, but I think the image is out of proportion slightly. But that won't matter much. So there's your coordinates for this. For the side view, make sure you choose right, because this is the right view, or driver's side, and we'll go from there. So we have to decide what's the first thing we're going to model. I'm going to get rid of the end bar, and here's a little trick I learned. Control up and down closes any extraneous windows that you have, so you have more room to model. I think this is very useful. So anyways, yeah. Oh, and here's another trick I just learned the other day. If you press Control, hold it down, and then click and drag with your leftmost button, you can select in any shape you want. I didn't know this existed in Blender, but I was watching a video that's well over a year and a half old, and I realized that this guy was selecting in these weird shapes. I didn't know how he did it until I figured out from his screencast keys that he was using this combo of just control and left clicking and dragging. So I never knew this existed in Blender. It's existed since at least version 2.66 or earlier, and it's an extra way to select things, so it is useful. So anyways, what are we going to model first? You might think, let's model something easy like the wheels or something like that, but that's actually not a good place to start. And that's because we're going to model them as separate objects, and we're going to do, this model is going to be in extreme detail. I'm going to try to do the interior, I may do the engine, I may do some of the chassis and the axles and the brakes. So the tires are going to have treads, for example. The rims are going to be inset and they're going to be in complete 3D, so I don't want to just trace the size out here. The front doesn't give us a lot of help either, know where to start. So what I usually do when I'm modeling a car is I start with the hood. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm going to just set the cursor to center, so Shift S, cursor to center. I'm just going to add in a mesh cube. And let's just bring it up. And let's line it up kind of with the hood line. And then let's just move it over the x-axis a little bit so that it's somewhere on the right side of the blue line. And we're going to add a mirror modifier. So we'll just leave that alone for now. Let's open up our menus again, and let's go into the modifiers tab, and let's add a mirror modifier. We want it in the X direction, and we want clipping enabled. So now, why isn't it mirroring? What's wrong here? There's got to be a reason for that. If I go into edit mode, wireframe, why is it not mirroring? Okay, well, let's grab this and drag it to the... Oh, okay, I see the problem. Let's backtrack. Let's delete that modifier. So with our cube added, let's just drag it up somewhere around to where the hood is. And then let's go into edit mode and deselect all. Make sure you have X-ray mode enabled down here. And let's box select just this side and let's drag it over so it's on the right side of the x-axis, so it's on the right side of the blue line. Then let's open up our options again and let's add a mirror modifier. Make sure it's in the right axis, which is X. Let's turn on clipping so that we can't go over the x-axis. But we're going to use a mirror modifier since cars are extremely symmetrical along the, I guess you'd call it lengthwise, basically. You know what I mean. Cars from front to back are very, very, very symmetrical, if not exactly symmetrical. The only minor differences are stuff like the pony emblem here, but we'll be doing that as separate objects, so that's not a big deal. So what I did there was I just simply let's go back. I just took the same selected edge and I just drug it all the way back to the z-axis so that it connects right here. So now, and make sure you have clipping enabled, like I said, so that we can't go over, because if you turn off clipping, then you can select a vertex and you can go over, and it just causes problems. So make sure clipping's enabled. We want merge so that it merges the vertices. So now anything we do to the right side will be mirrored on the left side, and that's what we want. So we're going to start with the hood, like I said. So from the front view, let's just start resizing things. Deselect all, box select. Let's move this down to about the top of the hood roughly. Now would be a good time to go into wireframe mode so that we can see our blueprint behind our object. And we're going to take the bottom edge and we're going to move it down to roughly where the bottom of the hood line is. And we're just going to box in the hood shape, because we're going to start with the hood and we're going to make it a separate object. And then let's drag this just to the very edge of the hood. So there we go. We have the basic hood shape locked in the front. Now from the top view, we obviously need to align that better. So select all and drag it up so it's just at the very front of the image. Like I said, because I cut this out pixel perfect, it's gonna line up perfectly. So let's actually do it right. Yeah, we'll do it right to the front. This is actually a angled part, but we'll do that on its own. And it's kind of hard to tell from this image, but this is the whole hood, and then it's got a hood scoop right here. But anyways, let's take the top and let's drag it to where the hood kind of ends there. And let's just delete this side. So now we have basically the length of the hood. We can zoom in and grab this vertex and just get it nice and accurate. We can do the same on the bottom. Make sure it's nice and accurate. We'll go almost right to the end. We'll leave it in the middle of the line. It'll be close enough. And from the front view, we'll see that our line is the entire height of the hood from the front view as well as in the top view, so we're good to go. So I'm going to start in the top view, and what I'm going to do is, using this vertex, I'm going to duplicate it by pressing Control D. We have clipping enabled, that's the problem. So turn off clipping for a second. So from top view, turn off clipping for a second, and select this vertex up here, and then press E to extrude, and let's just bring it somewhere over here. Then turn clipping back on, or actually sorry, let's go to the bottom first and do the same thing. Deselect all, and then just grab this bottom vertex and just extrude it out somewhere around here. Oops, I went too far. There we go. And now turn clipping back on so we don't make any mistakes. And let's start by just tracing out the general shape of the hood. So just grab your vertices and start tracing it out. You can make it very rough at this stage. You can do something like this. And we'll work on the hood scoop, so maybe line it up with the hood scoop line. Zoom in to get a little more accurate. It's pretty close. Then we'll just extrude it along to the corner of the hood. Then we're gonna extrude it along, just making sure from the image that this hood, if I go straight along the Y, I'm just gonna make this line quickly just to make sure that that is indeed where the hood ends. Yeah, this whole part is body, so the hood does end right to the left of our vertex. So we can grab it and just line it up with where the hood kind of ends there. So it's a fairly straight line, so we won't have to do a lot of work with that. And then extrude it one more time and line it up to where the hood scoop ends. Top view isn't the greatest actually. I think that we should actually bring these vertexes up. And we should outline it from there. Because this is kind of a lip. It kind of just angles down. I think that might be the bumper view. If we go back to front view, we can see it's still the same height, so it's no problem. So back in top view, we can now just simply, oh, I drug this one too by accident. Line it back up. And we can simply just fill these vertices in there. And I only used one in the top, so I'm actually going to dissolve that vertex there. X dissolve vertex. I can't do that, I gotta delete it and do this manually. So selecting this vertex and this one, just hit F to fill. So there we go, we have the rough shape of our hood blocked in. And in quads. When you're modeling anything organic and modeling in general, you want quads in 99% of cases. And you want them as square as possible as well. That'll make your models be able to curve nicely, and it's topology 101 basically. Excuse me for a second, my mouth is getting dry. So now that we have the hood outline, let's go back up to front view. And as you can see, we need to do a bit of adjusting. So let's select just the front vertex at the very corner of the front, only that one. Then let's go to front view and let's grab it to where it would go. So it would go somewhere around here. Actually, I want to put it right there because, like I said, there's a lip there. But actually, for now, I'll just leave it right at the very edge. So we're just blocking stuff in. Go back to the top view. And select this vertex right here where the hood scoop ends, and go back to front view, and like I said, let's just grab it along the Z, since we don't really have a view of the hood scoop here. We're gonna have to use the top view for that only, and just make it so it kind of lines up here right above the grille because the hood actually extends slightly further than the entire front of the car, just by a little bit. And go back in a top view, grab this vertice where the hood is basically at the tip of the hood, and it's already where we need it. Yep, perfect. So the only vertice we need to worry about, I think, is that one, which would end up being way back there, and it is where it should be. So if we go to front view, why do we have an extra vertice causing problems, and I don't know which one it is and why it's causing problems. So let's find out what vertice it is by going back into top view. It is that front vertice. Okay, so that is for the tip of the hood. So if we move into front view, I think we have extra geometry somehow. So let's grab it and move it down to the very tip of the hood. And I think what happened is I created extra geometry somehow. This is the split down the very middle of the hood, but I think it was created in error. So let's delete that vertice, or can I, since I'm in mirror mode? There we go. So now we have the entire hood outlined basically in front view. If we go to top view, it's still outlined. So yeah, we just had double vertices. Let's select all and go mesh, vertices, remove doubles just to make sure there's no more doubles. Nope, we're in good business. So back to front view. Now we can choose this vertice and we can move it along the Z just to kind of get this curve blocked in a little more. Now we can take this vertice and we can grab it along the Z and we can line it up right there. So now we have the front view blocked in and the top view blocked in. So if we filled this in right now, if we selected these four, or if we made this line first, if we, oops, wrong way, if we filled everything in, we would get this very, very, very basic hood shape. But you can see that it is indeed a very basic shape of the hood. As you can see, it's kind of curved, and especially in perspective mode, you'd see this. Maybe more so in orthographic, but you can tell that it rises up. You can see that the hood's starting to take shape. So let's continue modeling. Let's go back into wireframe mode. Let's add a subsurf modifier. We're going to need one in the end. And if we turn up the resolution, as you can well, let's just leave it at 1 for now. As you can see, that's gonna make things look nicer in the end. If we go back into solid view, you can see that's gonna make our hood look nicer in the end. But we're gonna need way more vertices for it to work. So we're gonna need a lot more loop cuts, etc. But anyways, let's keep working. It's easier on older cars because they had lots of nice smooth curves. It led to more modeling time, but it also meant that we'll turn this back down to 0, so we're just working with our straight geometry. Older cars had nice smooth curves, so they led to more modeling time, but easier modeling. With newer cars, a lot of the lines are sharp and such. So what I'm going to do is from top view, I'm going to subdivide this line. I'm going to take this vertice and I'm going to move it straight down along the Y, so that again we get that kind of curve. I'm going to do the same at the bottom. I'm going to W and subdivide, and then I'm going to select just the bottom one, and I'm going to just kind of get that curve blocked in. I'm going to get rid of faces because we're not going to deal with them yet, so just delete only faces. And from side view, we need to start lining things up as well. As you can see, things are way off. So from side view, we can start lining things up with vertice mode. Like I said, this here is kind of a lip, so it's going to be a little tough. That should have been drawn in my opinion. but we'll work with it. So let's grab it to about where I think it should go. These are obviously way too far, so they need to come back somewhere around here. Hopefully we don't ruin our geometry too much, but same kind of idea. We're basically just tracing the shape more or less. You know, I'm gonna leave a lip and I'm gonna leave a space and we'll model the lips separately. So yeah, something like that. Whoops. So we're getting a little more shape to it. As you can see from top view, things have changed again, so we need to move this vertex back to the front. Move this one back to there. Or no, maybe we'll leave it up. Like I said, there is a lip there. It's not in the blueprint, but I know it exists there, so we'll model around that. However, these back vertices are all messed up in side view. You can see they're way out of whack, so we need to grab them along the Y until they about line up. This hood scoop isn't modeled very... well, it's really not modeled, sorry, not drawn very well or at all in the drawing. I mean, from top view we have the basic outline, which is okay, but we don't have, from front view, we don't have any view of it. We only have side view to work with, so that's going to be a little bit tough. But anyway, we can fill in the lines between those two vertexes. And we'll go into side view. And so, we need to get the shape of this hood scoop outlined. So, let's subdivide this line. Let's take the center vertex and move it right up. Actually, I guess we could just put a loop cut in too if we wanted. Oops, wrong. I'm in the wrong Marco settings on my keyboard. We could just add a loop cut too. I can't see that from this view though. But we could add... why is it not showing up properly? What have I done? Well, I'm not entirely sure as to why I see loop cuts. It should have the line drawn across, but all it does is allow me to create vertices. That is extremely weird. Maybe we should go back to top view and kind of start over. Dissolve these vertices if we can. No. Let's delete them. So let's fill these back in. Fill these back in. Now can we make loop cuts? Because loop cuts are essential to creating good topology. No, for some reason I cannot create loop cuts, and I do not know why, and this is making me very upset. Something is wrong with my Blender setup, I think. Maybe it's because I have this middle vertex here. Let's see. Still not showing me the lines for loop cuts. This is extremely weird. I need to experiment with this quickly. Let me add a new cube in. Do this in object mode. Okay, do a loop cut to this. In edit mode, that is. I can, and it shows me the lines. So why will it allow me to do that there, but not to my hood? Is it because I haven't filled in the faces? If I fill them in, then will it allow me to see my loop cuts? Let's see. There we go. Okay, yeah. So let's line it up kind of where the hood scoop is. We're kind of starting over here, and let's start moving vertices again. So this one comes down. Let's get this 3D cursor out of here. This one comes down a little bit. This one comes up to the very corner of the hood. This is the very corner of the hood. I'm just going to grab it to move it to the proper place. Actually, I can just move it along the X. Like I said, we're going to leave that. We're going to leave a little bit of a gap in the front of the hood because there's that lip there. So we can kind of leave this like that. There we go. We have our basic hood shape outlined again. Now from front view, like I said, we can just adjust the geometry a bit. So we're going to leave that lip. It's going to exist in front and top view. Actually, it's only going to exist in front view. That's the only place we're going to see it. From top view, we're not. So these vertices can go right to the edge, because the lip basically goes straight down. It just makes the hood look like it has depth. So, anywhere about right there. Back to front view. What view did I go into that caused it to look all weird? Anyways, yeah. What next? Side view. I just line everything up. I think this drawing might be out of whack still, but we'll find out. So this is the vertice where the hood scoop starts. So in side view we do have that line at least. Or no, we don't. That is the edge of the hood. So the hood actually starts right there in side view. It ends about right there, and you can see how it has that lip there. So I think the hood scoop is actually somewhere about right there. And it's about that kind of shape. So let's try something like that. No, that vertice is gonna have to stick there. Just in side view it looks way off. I guess we'll just have to model the hood scoop very interestingly. So let's subdivide this line. Let's take the middle vertice. Let's move it up. Or actually, let's just create a loop cut. I can't create all the way across though, can I? Why not? It's because they have that darn extra vertice there again. Can I dissolve that? Fill this in one last time. There we go. Now I don't have extra geometry. Fill that in. Okay. Back to our basic shape one last time. Okay. Now we can add a loop cut in. So we're gonna add a loop cut in about right here. We'll drag where the hood scoop kind of goes up right there. And we'll bring this edge out so that we're outlining the hood shape. I want to continue doing this until we get the entire shape cut out in all views. So I'm going to add another loop cut around the middle here. So that goes somewhere like that. Or no, that comes up a little bit because that's where it curves into the hood scoop. This is the edge of the hood. So this is the hood line. This vertice can come up a little. So when you're modeling cars, it's a lot of playing around and going from one view to the other and just kind of seeing how it looks and making sure it looks right. So as you can see, we're starting to get this raised hood view look. Or hood scoop look, sorry. We can load in a reference image. Let's go to image viewer. And we can open a reference image. Find something with a good view of the hood scoop. Like I said, everyone's different. Maybe it really doesn't have a hood scoop actually. Let's open this one and see what it looks like. Yeah, as you can see, it's just a very minor bump in the hood. It's really not much of a scoop. I remember that actually. So it doesn't need to be much. So we can get rid of that reference for now. Or like I said, we can use the control up arrow to get rid of them. And control up to bring it back. So we could save that image right there for reference. So I don't know, we'll just bring this up a little bit. Bring this up a little bit. Just kind of create the general shape. And then we'll create another loop cut. As you can see, this basically lines up right about here. I think that's a good place for it to line up. Maybe it could come over a little bit. We could create another loop cut close to here. And we could drag it up just, or sorry, not in this view, in side view. We could drag it up just a tiny bit to kind of show that it's raised. And then we'll make sure this one stays in line with the shape of the hood. We'll go to front view to fix that, yeah. And top view just to make sure it's in line. Like I said, it's making sure you're basically just tracing, I guess. This one should stick in the corner there. This should come off there. That should be around there. That needs to be in the corner there. And then we need to fix these vertices. Just like that. Although actually, would it start off slimmer and get bigger? Or would it be kind of straight? Or would it start off bigger and get slimmer? I think it would be kind of straight, so we need to move these vertices over a little bit. Again, since we don't have a good blueprint in that regard, kind of just guessing, but that will be how we create that kind of curved shape. I think that that this entire edge here is a little too high, so if we go to side view, bring it down a little bit, and we can take this edge loop, we bring it up a little bit. This will allow us to create that kind of curved shape. As you can see, it gives it that little bump in the hood. Bring this up a little bit. Over. We're just kind of Just kind of edging things out, making it look like it should. Now forget which way I'm working from. That way, I think. Yeah, okay. So we look from top view again. Starting to get there. That's the basic shape, more or less. If I go into solid view, that is the basic shape of the hood, in my opinion. It's got just this little ridge here, essentially. It's really all there is to it in the basic form. However, we need to create this ridge. I don't know why this front image is just way off. Like, top view, this is lined up. Front view, it's lined up. Even if we move it down. But side view, it's just bleh, it's way off. I may need to rescale this image. It's just in wireframe mode. Everything else lines up. More or less. Yeah, everything else lines up except for this vertex here, which goes to the corner right by the windshield, and that very front vertex. I don't know why it needs to come up. These are all interesting shapes. It doesn't really help us at all. But what can you do? Side view is not going to be a lot of help for us right now. So we're going to take this edge and let's extrude it straight down the Z. That'll be our lip. Goes to about right there. Again, the side view is not a lot of help in that regard, but we know that a lip is there, so we will create it. And from the front view, we just need to adjust the vertices so that that lip lines up with everything. So just kind of play with your vertices. Move them about where they should be. Trace everything out essentially. And the lip is just the lip is just a tiny part of the hood that goes straight down, and it's not modeled in this blueprint. There should be a line here that indicates where that is, as well as where this kind of bump goes. It's not made very well, but that is the basic shape of the hood. So I think that's a good place to start. Next we could start with a fender maybe. Or we could do the grill. We could start with the entire bumper shape. Maybe we'll start with the with a fender. So, what am I gonna do to do that? What I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna take the entire outline of the hood. And I'm going to duplicate it and right click to lock it in, and then I'm going to go Control P to make it a new, or Shift P, or no, just P, and separate by selection, so that way it's a new object. Then we'll go into object mode and open up our menus again. So we'll call cube, that's our hood. Cube 001, we'll just call body for now. So that allows us to start off with the outline shape of the hood and work from there. Let's see what our hood looks like with subdivision surf on it. It's obviously going to need a lot more geometry. Whoops, I'm on the body. But the basic shape is there regardless. Like I said, it's going to need a lot more geometry, but the basic shape is there. For example, I would take this entire front and I would increase it, but yeah, the shape is there. To start anyway. We can always work on it later. If we go into this view, it's pretty darn close to perfect. And if we went to edit mode, we would have to add a heck of a lot of loop cuts to get it to match perfectly. Like I would have to, do something like that to get it squeezed right up along there. Maybe I will do this. So we're on the hood, we're just adding some loop cuts to get this shape in here. I'll put one in the middle so the shape nice and even. And we're making sure it's right in the middle in terms of height. So everything's just nice and even. Where else should we add a loop cut? Let's see our original geometry. Probably down the front so that that edge is extremely tight. And probably around here. Then what we can do is we can take the very outer vertices and we can exactly outline them. So in fact, let's delete the body for now because we're redesigning the hood shape a little. So we can take the outside vertices, like I said, and we can make them more accurate. There's something like that, I believe. Okay, that lip is quite massive actually compared to what it is in real life, but we can adjust it later. We just need the outline of the hood. But I think that works pretty good. Let's see what it looks like with subdivision surf again. Go to solid mode. See where it needs defining. Turn it to about a 3. If you look on the mirror side, it looks pretty good. Once we start adding some light and stuff, that's going to look pretty good. It has a slight bump. It's got this very sharp front lip. And from the top view, if we go into wireframe, it fits nicely along this curve. We'll go back to our original geometry, and again, we can just play with this to make sure everything's aligned. Basically what we're creating is, I call it, and a lot of people actually call it, is a boundary loop. We're gonna have to subdivide that one. But yeah, they call it a boundary loop. So it basically, you outline your image, and you basically create like an entire loop on the inside of each part so that you kind of save the geometry, and basically that shape will never change. Those vertices will always be there. That way you can edit. If we go back to the hood later and we want to add a scoop, we can always delete the inside part and edit it, but we have this outside part that'll always be there, and it'll always be correct. So I think that's pretty good. We would have to subdivide this and move this vertice down. And then we'd have to do the same to this to be able to fill in these faces. Same for this right here. There's a sharp curve, so we need to subdivide that and move it down. Whoops, not all of them, just the middle one. Do the same here. Whoops, I'm moving all of them again. So fill that in. Fill those edges in. Yeah, that's close enough. Just making sure I have all my faces. I do indeed. Alright, this front edge needs a little bit of editing. This needs to move forward. This needs to be basically almost right on top of it. So it's just it's curved, but it's still very sharp. And this is just our boundary loop. Same with these ones. This one goes on the outside edge. This is where it gets a little confusing. Gotta make sure we've got the right one selected in the right place. And it is. Just somewhere around right there, however. This is where it gets extremely confusing. So, to see how it looks. Okay, so looks like these just need to be moved up a little bit. So that they basically curve. From top view, they basically need to be right on top of each other. Almost. Something like that. So there we go. We have our edge, or our boundary loop all the way around. That way it saves our geometry if you ever want to go back and edit it. And if we view this in solid mode, we have our hood set. And if we turn the subdivision up just a little bit, object mode, as you can see, that's a very basic hood, just like you see in the picture here. It's got the slight raised part. Looks like I have some bad normals there. Ugh, what happened there? Let's make sure all my normals are right. Didn't fix all of them. I think this one. I think I need a couple need to be flipped. So let's go into face select. See if this one needs to be flipped. Oh, maybe that's just the way it looks. You know what it might be? It's because I should have created an edge loop all the way down. Maybe I should do that now. Will I still have a chance? Ooh, I don't have a chance. I can do it right there, but I have to make a pretend edge loop right here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to do this one by hand. As you can see, that made it even worse because we have to delete this face now. And we have to delete all these faces. We have to fill them back in by hand. I wish there was an easier way to just fill in all your empty holes. I know there is, but when you're modeling like this, it's not exactly what you want. We have some weird looking normals still. I don't know if that's just bad topology or if they're wrong. So let's get rid of this window, or do that, and let's view the normals. It looks like we got some bad normals. Let's check all my normals. Turn on my normals. Turn up the size a bit. So they are all pointing in the right direction. It appears. There's nothing. Oh, yeah, there are some going the wrong direction. So this one needs to be flipped. Ooh, see, that's a single face, whereas it's actually split. That's why. For some reason, we have a face on the bottom. That's old geometry, so let's delete faces and edges. Will that work? Nope. Bad idea. Only faces. There we go. That should fix it. And I think we have the same problem here. We subdivided and did that cut, but we already had a face there that we forgot to delete. So we need to delete this underside face. There we go. That fixes it. Let's turn off our normals again. We can get rid of that bar. So go back into object mode. Bring our toolbar back up. As you can see, it basically matches our reference image. We might want to add an edge crease. Go into edit mode right along that line, because you can see that it's very, very sharp. So if I select that entire edge loop and give it a crease with Shift E, that's going to give it a nice sharp look. And we can always change that later, but this is just because we're kind of just blocking in the basics. So yeah, under some better lighting it would look better, and we might have to add some more geometry in, but that's going to be the basic shape of our hood. And I'm going to try the solidify modifier to give it some depth. Yeah, that way it looks a bit more realistic. As you can see now, it has some depth. So there's the start of our hood. Took longer than expected, but we had a lot of setup to do. We had some errors, we had some learning, and we don't have the best blueprint. So I'm gonna, well, I'll just leave. Oh no, I'm gonna apply that. So there we go. Now our hood has a little bit of thickness, and it has about the right shape. Although it looks like the center line dips in, doesn't it? So we may have to go into edit mode one last time and take this entire edge loop. We may have to bring it up because it's the highest point, right? So that's too far now. Basically, I just need some cleaning up. If I turn up the subdivision surface, it might look better. Yeah. Because there is a slight crease down the middle, but it's not that sharp. So let's bring it down just a hair. Let's go into side view. Bring it down just a hair. It'll be the highest point in our hood, but only by a little tiny bit. Like that. Just down a little bit. Let's see how that looks. It's there, and you can still see the crease. It shouldn't be there. So I think that's because of our topology. So we're gonna have to fix that later, or maybe because of the solidifier modifier. The solidify modifier. Maybe I shouldn't have added that. In fact, I'm gonna undo that solidify modifier, because if we go back into object mode now, that crease isn't there, and now we can take that edge loop and we can bring it up just a little bit like I intended. And we don't need this part, so whoops. We don't need that one. We just need the top part. Let's bring it up just a hair, like less than that. I'm gonna hold down shift for more precision and like 0.005 or 0.007. We'll try that. So object mode, there we go. Now that's nice and smooth, it looks good, it looks like the picture, and we're in a good spot. So I'm gonna keep, this lip is on the front of the hood, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create another lip that you will not see after, just to give our hood depth, because there's gonna be a slight gap. You can see the main lip here, but we need to give the hood some depth. So what I'm going to do is we're just going to select all faces, or we're going to select this entire edge loop, actually, plus this one, or not plus that one since that's already done. Get rid of those, and get rid of that line there. Shoot. Let's do it manually. Do I want that one? I do. So yeah, we're just going to give it a little bit of depth. Not much, but a little bit. So if we go around, as you see, we did that in the Z direction, and that gave us just a tiny lip, so a little bit of depth. And we can always go back and make it a little bit deeper if we need to. But for now, we have a basic hood shape. The only thing that needs fixing is right here. We need to give this a mean crease. So Shift E, give that a mean crease. Take this part, give it a mean crease. It's not perfect. Technically, it should connect to that lip, but it works. And from a distance, you wouldn't notice it. It would look the right way. So there we go. Now our hood looks like it has some depth to it. If we go like that, and it has that kind of scoop look. Not the hood scoop, but the lip to it. So there, or not the lip's there, but I don't know what you call it, the raised part. So now, like I said, I'm gonna save this as part 1 since we're over an hour. So I'm gonna edit that down, and then in the next part, we have a little bit of editing to do yet. We need to bring all this over. There we go, just so it lines up with that line better. Beautiful. Alright, so that follows the blueprint almost to a T. And everything except for the side view. I mean, everything lines up except for this lip here, and I don't think trying to follow it this way would be right. I mean, I could try, I guess, but just don't think that's the right way to go about it. You know, if I tried to move everything over and line it up, like, whoops, I got this selected, I use the brush tool and hit middle mouse button to get rid of that. If I moved it over and then down to try to follow the blueprint more, if you go from top view, as you can see, it really ruins that part of the blueprint, and it would ruin the front view as well, and it would ruin the overall shape of the hood, I think. If we go into object mode, maybe not. It'll take a little bit more editing, but that works. It looks not bad. We just need to get rid of this little hump here. From side view, at least it fits the blueprint a little better, I think. Maybe not. Let's find out. Let's turn off all our subsurfs. No, it doesn't really. I think the blueprint is off, honestly, in my opinion. Because just can't get that lined up there in the front. And I think, like I said, that it's the blueprint's fault and not mine. If you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments. And if you want to see me continue this, also let me know. Or if I'm just wasting my time, let me know so that I'm not doing this, because I don't really need to model this. I've owned one. I don't need a model of it on my computer. So yeah, we need to fix this hump. All these gotta come forward. Make sure everything's deselected. Give that curve back since we ruined it by trying to fix it. And from the front view, everything needs to come up along the Z so that it follows the grill there. We might take this line and give it an edge slide, so Control E for edge and edge slide it down to about here. That way it's in line with where this bumper kind of starts, and that'll give us a good starting point. And same with this vertex. I'm going to Control V and do a vertex slide, just Shift V. Maybe not. We'll see what that looks like, but I don't think that's what I wanted. We'll very soon find out. Alright, so let's see if everything lines up now. Yeah, that shouldn't have gone that far, because that's our protecting loop. Is what I call it, a protector loop. It protects the outline so that we can edit the inside if we ever need to go back and edit it. So let's go back into object mode, just solid view, turn on subsurf a few times, and see what it looks like. I think that looks not half darn bad. Like I said, it has some thickness. It looks like it's a sheet of metal now. It has that lip. It has the risen part. If you look from the back, it has that nice hood shape, and I can tell from sitting in the driver's seat for so long that that is the shape of the hood. It's got the nice points here, and so it lines up nicely with everything, like I said, except for the very, very front of this blueprint. And we may be able to fix that, but I think I'm just going to leave it there. No one will tell the difference, and I think that looks right. So that's about it for the hood. I cannot think of a way to get this more lined up other than moving this in and down. As you can see, then it lines up, but then in top view it's way off, and I question, like, why? What is all this then? Well, that's part of the hood, so one of these is wrong. So I either need to move this view forward, which I may do actually, because that'll make things easier when it comes to modeling. Because the front view is fine no matter what. The side view is perfect now. It's just the top view. And then all I would need to do if I go into wireframe is just turn off subsurf. All I would need to do is just move these points back a bit. So yeah, maybe we should move this back a little. So let's close our reference image. Let's open up our N window. And let's move it so that this lines up. So it's our top view. Let's move it along the Y, I believe, is it? Yeah. Yeah, basically right there. So now everything kind of lines up. And now we just need to move these points back. So we'll grab these, move them up. Grab these, I'll move them up. Grab these, I'll move them up. And so on and so forth. There's nothing I can really tell you while I'm doing these little tweaks. I can tell you about my day maybe, but nothing eventful happened. I guess when I went to go get my prescription, I pick up daily prescriptions. The government cut me off from my health care for some reason, so Monday morning I'm going to have to find out why. we have extra geometry, or an extra edge there. We're gonna have to create an edge loop that goes all the way down, but we'll do that later. For now, the basic shape is fine. There we go. It still looks the same. Still looks good, and now it lines up in top view because we just moved it a little bit. Lines up in front view perfectly, and it lines up in side view perfectly. So that was the hard part, in my opinion. Now the rest is gonna be kind of easier. So in the next video, we're gonna create this headlight shape here, and then we're gonna just make a fender that goes back, and we're gonna work from there. This bumper is a separate piece, but it's hard to see. It's split. Oh, like this is the whole bumper piece here, and I guess it's split right about there. It doesn't go all the way up to the headlights. Maybe it does, yeah. So yeah, in the next video we'll create this shape right here. Maybe we'll create the whole headlight shape and the fender. And that'll be quite a bit of fun, because this is an interesting shaped fender. It's not just straight, it's curved, so there'll be lots to it. But yeah, it'll just be a lot of tracing and rearranging, and we might do the fender flares separately, so we might just have to create this, and then these lines here are creases, so we're gonna have to make creases, and we'll move up to the door in the next video and then see where we can get. So anyways, that's the hood for now. This is part 1. Like I said, if I'm wasting my time, let me know, but if you want to see more, then leave a comment, and I will continue adding on until we have a complete modeled car. But that's our starting point. Thanks for watching, and wait for part 2.